It's late at night. I've been under the weather for the last couple of days, but that's not going to stop me from reviewing this movie because I thoroughly enjoyed it and I want to talk about it as best as I can after being in kind of a haze the last few days. So, I finished it the other night. This flick starts off as what appears to be, Andre just rambling, kind of about himself. He almost comes off as, it almost comes off, I don't want to say pretentious, but, self-inflated is all. That's how it comes off at first. And then, when he's talking about all the experiences he had with the different groups of people and exploring art and different theatrical performances and all that stuff, it seems irrelevant, and then where that ends up going, that's almost, foreshadowing the entire conversation, actually, because it seems so, thrown in there, but it actually snowballs into something greater. And that's what I really appreciated about this. I appreciated that not only is this movie something I would like to make eventually, something where it's just driven by dialogue and driven by what is being said, what the characters are doing, as opposed to the actual plot. That was a big appeal. This is one of those movies I've been meaning to watch for years because of how much I heard about it. It's a classic, low budget flick, which if you watch enough of these, you'll find that I'm just a sucker for that, and I'll sound like a broken record with how much I love independent, low budget filmmaking. The conversation that they have, though, is lovely as far as, and it's incredible as far as this movie's almost 45 years old, and it's all still relevant. Everything he's talking about, or everything that Andre brings up as far as people not really being awake and not looking around themselves, that might have been, you could argue that essentially TV and certain things like that at the time, maybe even movies or certain things in those, when it came to technological advances, you could say the TV is the original smartphone in that way, as far as that things haven't necessarily changed, just the devices themselves have kind of changed. Because everything he says, I felt very similar to that, and I understand what he means by a lot of it. So that alone was very interesting to me, how relevant this entire thing was. I loved the duality of both characters, as far as they're both kind of supposed to represent two sides of the same coin, two different versions of the same person, two different versions of what it means to be human in general. Because what's great about Wally's characters is that he I like that he, has a he has a something on the contrary to say to him. That's all. I like that while Andre is presenting, that desire of wanting to make life very important and wanting to find a lot of significant meaning in all of this, and wanting to find, I relate to that. As much as I relate to that, I love how Wally brings up how much he likes those things, how he appreciates the simple, comfortable things in life. His electric blanket, spending time with his wife, all that stuff is very. Someone always should speak up for that side of things as well, or someone should always point that out, because I relate more to Andre completely, and I am that kind of person, and I love when people bring up enjoying the simple things and not trying to put everything on a pedestal in that way. You can definitely say that Andre is so eager to find these heightened, these elevated moments of existence, and Wally is pointing out how you don't always need that. You don't always have to be hungry for that, or you don't always have to chase those feelings. So the fact that they're both very different and still, that's something I'm not used to seeing nowadays. Two people having opposite opinions and being able to still talk about it. It's not really a thing anymore. But I truly enjoy how deep this movie goes. I mean, this movie is literally tailor-made for people in the arts, people into philosophy and theater and writing. It's a writer's. This is a writer's movie and a movie for people that are into theater culture in New York and all that shit. So I'm all into all of it, all of the above for me personally. So this is literally something that I had been meaning to watch for such a long time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This movie's not for everyone. This is the last movie that I would pick to throw on at a party or throw on when I'm like with a group of people. This is one of those, if you haven't ever seen it personally and you're thinking of watching it with somebody, like, just, you have to be ready to be just listening to people talking the whole time. It is one of those movies, sometimes writing every little bit of what is being said is important, sometimes not. This is one of those movies where you can miss a couple of sentences there's so much talking, you can miss a couple of sentences and you're not going to miss the point that each character is trying to make. That's what's really lovely about this, is that they'll stay on a subject for a long enough time to really to get like, they take their time to get to the point that they're trying to make, and when they make it, you're it's hard to miss it. It's hard to, unless you're completely not paying attention at all. But it's one of those, even if you happen to zone out or miss a couple of lines of dialogue, you're not really gonna miss anything too significant, hopefully. It's easy. It always comes back around to what they're talking about. It is what I'm saying. Like, the subject matter doesn't stray too far from the core of what they're trying to say. So this is definitely not for everybody. Not everyone can watch people just talking for that long. But if you are into this movie is kind of made for people that are into podcasts, or like, you could listen to this movie. That's what I love about shows like Seinfeld, or I've been rewatching 30 Rock. 30 Rock is kind of like that too. Shows or any story where you can just listen to it is always great, because like My Dinner with Andre is something you can fall asleep to this kind of movie. Not in a bad way, not saying it's boring, I just mean, like, it's one of those, it'll get your brain thinking about interesting stuff, and then you can just kind of like nod off. And like, I could see myself re-watching this movie just to listen to them and listen to what they're... That's all I'm trying to get at, is that you could like listen to the entire movie and not necessarily miss anything. The only thing you're missing is the visual of them talking and maybe eating, taking a sip of wine or taking a bite of food every once in a while. That's all you're really missing. So, hats off and applause to Andre and Wally. I know they both. I think they both wrote and directed it and starred in it. And hats off to them for doing what I have a strong desire to do someday. Make something significant. I love how these types of movies they come off on the surface as so, simple and plain and vanilla, and they're anything but. It's one of those where, because the dialogue is so enriching and poetic and goes into some really deep topics of conversation, it doesn't need a spectacle. It doesn't need anything other than that. It's the very nature of what it is interesting enough. My favorite thing about these types of movies is how what is being said is the star of the movie. The every bit of dialogue is front and center and the most important part of each scene and each moment, each beat of the movie. And that's really hard to do. That's really hard to do, to make everything else is unimportant as opposed to compared to what's being said. I've never seen a movie like that where nothing else is really relevant other than the conversation. And that goes hand in hand with just what the movie is. My Dinner with Andre, it's just two people hanging out and having a bite. The runtime in and of itself feels like the exact amount of time that you would have dinner with somebody, an hour and a half, 2 hours or so. I think what I can't help but... I can't forget to mention this. One of the greatest things about this flick is how right when it's done, right when the conversation ends, right when the dinner ends, you will have so much to sit on and ponder. You'll have a lot to sit and ponder with, and you will. It's like right as the last exchange is made, and right when they have that last bit of the conversation at the restaurant, you not only you almost want more of it. Not only that, but you there's almost this delayed reaction, almost this delayed feeling of processing what they just gave you and then adding your own fields of thought, your own questions to it. That's what's really cool about it, is it feels like it's a whole setup for you to kind of think about what they're talking about in your own life. All of it, the whole movie is kind of, I was, looking into this, talking to Chad about it just to kind of shape my own, thoughts about it, see what it had to say about it. And one of the things that it pointed out that was very interesting to me is that they kind of are a mirror to each other. And the movie also feels like a mirror to the audience. The movie is essentially holding a mirror up to you and saying, which of these two are you like? More like, are you both of them? I mean, we're all both of them to some extent, just different, extremes. But it feels like it wants you to just ask those same questions. It wants you to think about everything that they've said and apply it to your own world, your own life. That seems a little too simplistic for how introspectively in depth this movie can be, but it feels like that's just kind of what I got from it, at least. It's not. It's nothing more to me. The movie is nothing more than these two characters getting something out of themselves, in which moments we kind of relate to more than others. And do we relate to all of them? Do we relate to none of them? There's just so much with so little, it speaks, it has so many waves of things that it makes me feel like. I feel all these waves of just different ideas and thoughts and emotions and questions, and it does it so succinctly, I think, is what I appreciate about this movie. While it seems like a bunch of ramblings, it's actually like every single moment of it and every beat of it is very significant if you pay attention to those things and if you absorb all of that. So this movie's not for everybody, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I want to find more like this. And I can't wait to do more of these videos. I haven't been feeling that well, so and I watched this movie a few days ago, so I wish I kind of did it more immediately, but I wasn't wanting to talk or do anything else. So I hope some of this made sense. I hope it makes you want to watch the movie if you haven't watched it, or I hope it makes you want to rewatch it. More of these movie reviews. I'm going to be watching a lot more movies, so if you want to check out any of these, feel free to subscribe and check out my stuff. If not, I don't really give a fuck.